So before I get into my intro, Grace, say something. Say what's up real quick.
What is up?
There it is. Okay. Levels. Great. What is cracking? What's popping? What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Comic Cinematic Universe with Chill and Grace. She can be heard. Last week, once we kind of made that switch from Skype to the on the phone thing, yeah, we lost her. I heard everything that she said, but you all didn't hear her, so we're making sure she is heard today. You know what I'm saying? So hello, Grace. How are you doing?
See, women have been oppressed for so
Oh
long.
my
We can't
goodness.
continue. We can't continue that. Man, it was such a bummer because I think we had such great conversations, but at least the team, the fans, can hear your side of all the things. Luckily, I feel like our intro was so good last time, and at least that was saved. So it's all
But
right. It's
see,
all
but
good.
what
Other than
the
that, I'm doing
important thing
amazing.
is that we missed is your outro. Okay, so that was the one time you did the outro and we didn't get it.
Damn. Damn.
Yep. But yeah, everything is good with you.
Yeah, doing pretty good. Did you hear we're gonna hit a hurricane? Hit the
I
West Coast?
I didn't hear hurricane. I know rain, but now it's like, are we getting hurricane warnings?
So, okay, it was announced earlier this week that supposedly it's gonna hit all of the West Coast. Well, not all of the West Coast, Southern California
Mm-hmm.
part of the West Coast, which is yep, that there's going to be a hurricane. Which I mean, keep in mind Californians exaggerate, so it probably just means there's wind and rain. But it's very weird that they're even announcing it. It's strange to me, and it's scary.
I don't think so. I think if anything, the rain gods are blessing us if it is a hurricane, you know what I'm saying? Because all of these signs of save water, we're in a drought. We've been in a drought for 3 or 4 years now, you know? So let everything come. The only thing we don't need in this bowl of a valley, this dust bowl of a valley is a tornado. But if it's just a little bit of rain and a little bit of wind and a lot of rain, then I'm for it, you know what I'm saying?
Let it rain.
Let it rain, you know what I'm saying? Just make it rain. Come on.
Dude, this might be our saving grace in that case because you're right. It's so dry. You have all the signs everywhere on the freeway, save water, and it's it's a thing. So maybe this is a good thing.
Yeah, we
How are
need
you
that
doing?
water. I'm good. Busy week. Uh Actually a really good productive week. Just with me and music, I linked up with this one songwriter not too long ago, and we're in the works of doing some work. So this week was a pretty decent week.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to hear more about that. But that's
Yeah.
really cool. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. So last week I think we started with Sandman, and being that today we're covering 2 episodes, I want to start with Sandman again, if that's okay.
Oh, sure thing. Let's do it.
All right, let me switch it on up. Where are we at?
Also, you have this lovely glow on you today. Is this a new light, a new camera? What's going on?
Oh, oh, it's not a new light. It's just rare that I have it on while we're while we're
Well, it looks
streaming.
amazing. It looks great. I noticed you also have a canned drink with you. What is the
From Trader Joe's.
drink of
It's
choice?
sparkling water. Okay, the flavor is mango orange, something citrus esque. It's really, honestly, it tastes like watered down orange juice with some
See,
carbonation.
I've had those. I haven't had that flavor. I do like their lime, lemon, whatever it is. They have several.
Yeah.
The citrusy ones, I'm a fan of. I
Yeah.
got kombucha,
Okay. Okay. Look at
and
you.
I got it solely because the bottle's very pretty, and it came in a pack of 4, which I thought was kind of cool.
Okay. Um. Kombucha. Before we get into Sandman, can you just break down why people drink kombucha?
I like the flavor, and it burns my throat, and I don't know why, but I like the sensation.
Interesting.
It's supposed to be good for digestive health. I think they add things like apple cider vinegar and things like that just to get on the hype of what people think is healthy. You know what I mean? But I think kombucha, because it's cultured, it technically does actually have benefits for your digestive system.
But like looking at like say in the can, right? Say because that's the can that you have right now, correct?
Yes.
So in the can, I can't see what's going on, but I've seen bottles of kombucha with like just little floaties on the inside. And
that's like the cultured thing. That's the culture. So it's like yogurt has cultured like cottage cheese, and it's really good for your diet. It's like I'm sorry, not probiotic. It's the prebiotic, right? So probiotics and prebiotics. One's the fiber, one's like the good bacteria culture.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you're seeing.
Yeah. I think I'll pass.
Just get
You
the
enjoy
cans.
it. You enjoy it. Well, say lastly, is it carbonated or is it more so juice like?
No, it's like carbonated. I don't know if it's carbonated because it's actually carbonated because it's not like the same. It's not like it's bubbly.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just the fermentation. I don't know, but it's like basically carbonated. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that was kombucha, folks. Now we're getting into Sandman. We're gonna chat about episode 4, and with episode 4, you may have to start it off because honestly, the darkness of episode 5 is pretty much fresh in my mind.
Oh
so
my god!
let's if you
episode
could.
5, Lord, I'm excited to get into that one, but. Episode 4, I think the easiest way for us to break it down for you guys is in 2 parts because we basically go back and forth from Hell and Buffalo, New York. And it kind of goes back and forth. So there's like 2 main storylines. It's actually really cool because at the end, they kind of like weave together. So it's actually a really cool form of storytelling. I think last week, episode 3, had a similar vibe where it was like 2 main stories that we just kind of kept going back and forth on. But I love how this kind of weave together in the end. So I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to go down the rabbit hole of Hell, or do you want to talk about John and his exploration?
Well, before that, I like the way you phrased it just now, just because let's say from how this season started, let's say it started off kind of singular, both worlds kind of colliding, and then just the whole episode is of these 2 worlds being one. And then I guess from there, episode 2, the world split to where now Sandman's doing this thing and we don't know what's going on with the humans, to where like we're getting a better idea of her name was Ethel, correct? Mm-hmm. Ethel and her son John. Boom. And then episode 3 we get more John, and now and then Sandman getting the Sands with Constantine. So it's like they're splitting, but now it's getting to the point to where I mentioned this maybe like episode 2, to where like I was hoping for the show to reach a certain point for it to get better, and now it's like it's all conforming to that point. You know, it's to the point to where now episode 4 we're still kind of in these separate stories, but by the end of the episodes now they're coming back to almost the same, like that linear story.
Absolutely. I think that's it. And I think it's like, I don't know, it's very interesting. And I will call it unique because I feel like almost every episode feels like it could come from a different show, almost. You know? They don't stick to the same method of storytelling. They don't really stick to the same rhythm. So it's very jarring. And I think when we get to episode 5, that's a great example of that. I think this episode, the way it was coordinated, was one of the cleaner ways that they've done it, I think. And it's like you said, I feel like it really does match the stories up very well to lead us into the point that, you know, we get at the end and then leading into episode 5. Right.
So let's go take a trip down what kids call the HE double hockey stick. You know what I'm saying?
That's such a good introduction. So I think of the 2 stories, I mean, both of them were really good, but there's something about this Hell storyline that I really enjoyed. So we get started with, episode 3 leaves off with Matthew being like, I'm coming with you anywhere. And then Sandman finally agrees and he's like, we're going to hell. And he's like, oh.
Wait.
So this episode kind of starts off from that point. They are now in hell. Hell is cold. They follow this trail of the damned kind of walking into, like, I guess, like the epicenter of hell. And it's like they're bringing their own fire to it, which is something that Matthew kind of mentioned. Like, damn, like they even have to hold their own fire in hell, you know? It's an interesting dynamic because it's different than the hell I think we conceive, because we just think flames, but it's actually cold, which kind of makes sense because I feel like cold is very much associated with like darkness and lifelessness and things like that. So I feel like it makes sense, like the setting of hell.
Right, like say with this, right? It's a new take because just by what we've been shown in television and what we've been told in church or whatnot, I'm expecting if I go to hell, I'm basically swimming in lava, you know what I'm saying? And like bathing in flames and stuff like that. But like this take, I like it because it's different. Like, yeah, they mention that we're following the damned, and then they eventually run into a demon that guards the gate into, I guess, the city of hell or whatnot. I don't know what it is. I think it's just a gate to somewhere. I'm just gonna assume a city. But like this take on hell, I like it just because it's different, and I think that was the way to go. Just in terms of just basically because of what we've been shown, you know. So why not do something different?
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna have you kind of take over for like 5 seconds because the air turned on and now I can't hear you at all. Like I was hearing you, and then it just like halfway through I was like really trying to hone
all
in
good,
on your
no
sound.
worries. I actually heard your
I
air.
think I'm gonna just either turn this off or see if I can connect. So I'm just gonna come off camera for like 5 seconds.
For sure.
Okay.
All right. So we're at the gate to where oh, she went off. Hold on. Let me just take that off real quick. Okay, so Sandman and Matthew the Raven, they make it to the gate of hell, run into this demon, and this demon, he had some choice words for Sandman, simply because though he showed up to the gate, it wasn't as if he was welcomed, and Sandman kind of made it clear that as like you can only get in if you're invited, and that's weird, being that all of these head people of these different realms, they're all related in some way. And here Lucifer, which turns out to be Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones, I believe them to be siblings, either like brother sister or just siblings in general. I don't know if there's like a label to it, but did you hear everything I was saying?
Not all of it. I caught up right now to Brienne of Tarth,
so
which I freaking love.
We're not there yet. Excited. We're not there yet. I was just pretty much kind of talking about how we've reached the gate, and the demon at the gate pretty much had, let's say, choice words for Sandman. He was just like on some you can't come in and like, where's your ruby or whatnot. So like he was kind of challenging the Sandman, being that the Sandman is at the status of who he is. He was like, the demon himself was just like, it doesn't matter, you know. And then they kind of butted heads at the gate. That's pretty much all I was saying while you were gone.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you see this reoccurring theme that, like, even just humans, like, who's the girl we meet last week? She's like a family member of, why am I missing? You know who I'm talking about. Constantine. Yeah, like even humans like Constantine have like heard of kind of what had happened to him, right? Like I think everyone's getting little variations of it, but I think a lot of people know that he's kind of at a weak and vulnerable state because he doesn't have like the artifacts
Right.
that kind of are part of his power. And so yeah, like this demon is kind of like his name is Squatterbolt, which is just really weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Razor Face from Guardians of the
Right.
Galaxy.
Right.
But he is kind of like belittling him, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And in the same scene, something I thought was really cool, because I don't know what it is. I love the world building and like the lore and kind of learning the rules of this land, because there's a lot of things that sound familiar, like Cain and things that are from like the Bible
Mm-hmm.
or other mythologies, but then they add little things that I think are very unique. And I'm referring specifically to, like he says, a king must not enter another one's realm uninvited. There are
Mm-hmm.
protocols, and then we hear that kind of repeated again with Lucifer. And I don't know, I love those little lores that are kind of like sprinkled into the story and kind of weave it into something that's really unique.
Right. And when you came in just now, I was just pretty much kind of referring to uh, Brienne, aka Lucifer here. Like each realm has their head person, and I was just kind of saying that even though Sandman is the head of the dream realm, and yes, there are these protocols. I would think that him and Lucifer are siblings, you know? So even with that, there should have been some type of respect here, you know? So I don't know.
Well, they're not siblings
No?
actually. She makes a comment to Morpheus saying like referring to his siblings as a separate entity. Not like I do not think they're
Okay.
siblings. They're of different worlds. Like she wanted to even actually unify their kingdoms. Almost like it kind of sounds like a courtship somewhat. We don't really know. They don't elaborate, and like you can tell that Morpheus denied or declined her
Mm-hmm.
offer. But they're not siblings. Like that's very, very clear. And that's another interesting thing, because when they were talking about going to hell and visiting, like you assume like the devil,
Right.
um, I also was thinking that this was what part of the family, like one of those other. Like they've mentioned them, like there's like a list of them, like he's like the dream and like all these other
Right.
things, but they are separate.
Well, then let me.
And again, I think this.
I
Go
was gonna
ahead.
say, let me ask you. Then with that, if they're not siblings, because I think it may have been like episode one to where I forgot the guy with Corinthians. He mentioned like the different D's, whether it's dream or desire or whatnot, and
Mhm.
uh, the sorcerer he didn't summon death, he summoned dream by accident. You know, so would you say that death is something totally different from Lucifer? Would you say like death, this is quote unquote like the Grim Reaper, and like that's totally different from who Lucifer is?
Yes, definitely would say that. And I think you're right on the money with kind of death being something close to like the Grim Reaper, similar to how Dream, we know him as like the Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think you're on the money when it comes to that. And I'm just gonna read it off from like the oldest to the youngest, just for the siblings, for those of you who just aren't familiar, don't remember, etc. So we have Destiny, Death, Dream, Destruction, Desire, Despair, and Delirium, who was previously known as Delight. So these are the siblings, and Lucifer is not one of them. So Death
Mm.
is a separate
Okay.
entity.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's where my confusion was, because I thought we were just going to a different realm, aka hell, to reach the leader there to find out where the helm is. You know, so that's something totally different. Okay, I got it.
Yes. And kind of hopping back onto here, so we meet Lucifer Morningstar, ruler of hell, previously known as Angel Samuel. And we know the story,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, used to be an angel, fallen from
Mm-hmm.
heaven. And we also learn that saving only to the Creator, Lucifer is the most powerful being that there is. And he makes the statement, right? Morpheus saying that even more powerful than I.
Right.
Like, and this is important because obviously these two are going to duel down in this episode, and so it's kind of funny how they do establish that in the beginning, which is why we're not surprised when the Sandman is like almost getting prepared to die, right? He's like telling the Raven to go back to
Lucienne so that she doesn't spend more, years all alone and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, I'm just obsessed with this episode, because it like gives us so much lore and world building, and I do hope that we see like Brienne of Tarth like
Mm-hmm.
like again.
Well, being that like because it just from what I've seen in the posters, and there's a poster with every single character on there. She's pretty much at the top. So I'm assuming that won't be the last time we see her. I feel like she has a bigger role. We just have yet to get to it.
Yeah, and the way that this ends up, right? Because they duel, and we're kind of we'll get into the duel in just a moment. But when they duel, and ultimately, he wins. He tells Death something along the lines of like, "Oh, you're an honorable X, Y, and Z," and she's almost like offended, like, "Dude, you must be kidding, right? This must be
Mm-hmm.
sarcastic." And they definitely leave in a bitter note. Like she's basically like, "I will destroy you," and then he says like, "Until the day," and then like
Well,
drifts off.
she's a sore loser. She thought she had it in the bag because like every comeback that he came with was like had a counter from her, and it was like counter after counter after counter to the point to where he came with the last counter and there was nothing to beat that. So I get it if it was a game that she was named champion of that realm because she's the strongest, and I'm assuming that she's never lost. So that day was the day she lost to Dream. So it's okay. It's all right. She's
Yeah,
just
and
salty.
Matthew like does make the observation like, dude, you just embarrassed the ruler of hell like in her own turf. Like this is not like something to tread lightly on, because I think Dream has either a consistency to almost like not recognize the threat at hand, right? Like he overlooks like doesn't I think it was like episode 1 or 2 when he makes a comment. I'm like, oh, she's just a human, referring um to Constantine, and it was Lucienne that reminded him, like, yes, but a human also trapped you for multiple years. Like he doesn't really understand or acknowledge outside threats like John. I think when he kind of quickly went to grab the ruby, didn't really
Mm-hmm.
understand what was going on there, and I think he may also be doing the same thing with Lucifer. And maybe that's kind of foreboding. And especially with you saying that she's kind of at the forefront of the posters and we can assume she will come back
Mm-hmm.
again, I think we'll see this threat maybe get delivered in some way.
Yeah, just to fast forward after, because we'll talk about episode 5, but after how episode 5 ended, and now uh, we're shorter character that we're going to get into now. As far as the puzzle pieces or the chess pieces at that, I would assume if anything, Lucifer's still in the picture, and being that the only other person that is pretty much against Sandman right now is Corinthian. Now it's almost like the enemy of my enemy situation kind of going forward.
I love that. I didn't even think of that. It's totally right. I feel like there is definitely a team assembling,
Mm-hmm.
or you can see that coming down, because we know that Corinthian did try to like kind of rub shoulders with John. And it's funny, we actually didn't see more on that. So I'm curious if there's more story there that we just didn't get to
Mm-hmm.
observe, and we're gonna maybe see it come back up again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that prediction. I feel like we're all close
We're doing what
to
we
around
do.
the money.
We're doing our
we do,
predictions.
we're doing what we do. We're doing what we do.
So say,
Uh,
I kind of want to backtrack here because something that I noticed, say on the way to Lucifer, were the hellish prisons, and for some reason, these prisons, it reminded me so much of I don't know why, but the fields in the Matrix. Do you know what I'm referring to? Have you
no.
seen the Matrix?
You're
Okay.
gonna be so
Okay. We
mad
don't
at
have to.
me.
We
I
don't even talk.
I've seen it, but by pieces. So
Okay.
like I basically haven't.
Okay. Well, in the
Yeah.
Matrix, there are like, let's say, thousands. Like, there's a field of like thousands of like ginormous cylinders with just like basically human prisoners surrounding the cylinders. And then here in this episode, we saw pretty much the same thing. It was just like all of these cylinders of where all the souls are kept, you know. So that was something I found interesting, like in comparison to the Matrix.
It's so crazy because we see different versions of hell for different people. Like some people, like their bodies are molded to frame like the gates of hell.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them we see them like just deformed into like trees and merged together. Like there's so many differences in like I think how people are being punished for their wrongdoings. And then yeah, like we see a city basically of these towers with like thousands of
Mm-hmm.
windows, each for like you know,
Yeah, let's say
soul
like a
of the
soul. Yeah,
damned, you know?
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. And in that regard, so referring to the scene, I think we looked over, we get this extra story
Mm-hmm.
for Morpheus, and I really did not see it coming. And I'm wondering if it was actually foreshadowed at the end of the last episode with his conversation with Constantine. But we find out that he has like this long lost
Mm-hmm.
love that dates back to the first like men.
Mm-hmm.
You know, her name is Nada, and when he sees her, like I like we learn, of course, that the demon that's kind of leading him to Lucifer like detours towards this specifically to kind of mess with
Mm-hmm.
him, and she's begging for his forgiveness. He explains later that they were in love and she defied
Mm-hmm.
him and she ended up in hell. And it's been over, I
It's
think he said
10,000
specifically like
years.
10,000, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like 10,000 years. She's begging for his forgiveness and he's like, no, like, I love you, but no, I'm still bitter. He holds a grudge. We've established this already. Like, this man holds a grudge and he's stubborn, you know?
Well, I would
Um,
say okay, because we don't know the actual story. What was her name again?
I think Nada. I haven't written out, but it may be pronounced
Okay,
differently.
all
But
right,
I'm just gonna go
no
with
worries.
that. Yeah.
So with Nada, right? We don't know their story, but it is apparent that it's a grudge, but it's kind of not a grudge. I would say. Let's say if she is human, right? If she's not a demon or any other type of entity, they fall in love. And if I were him and we were in love and we don't know what she did, but if she cheated on me, I'm sorry. You dead.
Yeah, like that's what
You dead.
you did. See, and that's what I'm curious. I feel like by him saying like she defied me, like that's kind of what I was thinking too. But I feel like that can also mean many things. You're right. We don't know the story. I mean, it must have been bad, like for him to still be upset for after 10,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's like, okay, well, how do you feel about this? Like he's on some catfishing type thing because he shows up as a completely different person when when he's talking to
Mm-hmm.
her, you know. And I'm like curious about that. Like, it's almost like a Loki maybe kind of power that he can do. But it wasn't established earlier, so I feel like this is just a new maybe um thing that we're learning that he can do,
Sure.
you
Let's
know.
say like every entity, dream, death, or whatever, they are. I would assume able to take shape in any form of life, and I would assume uh, there was a point to where he looked like how he looked to her, and from then on, that is how she sees him. No matter what form he is today, she still sees him as the person that she saw when she knew him from 10,000 years ago.
I'll take it. I feel like that makes sense to
Yeah.
me. Um, I hope we get more of this. Like that was really cool. I feel like we get to learn more about Morpheus because he's very much like we don't really know a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we know obviously that he was imprisoned. We know that he rules like the land of the what is it called? They referred it to many different things. But you know, he's a ruler of this part of the realm
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And we just know that he's searching to get his objects of office, if you will, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so we know very little, and I think this adds a lot of character building for him. And I kind of want to rewatch the end of episode 3 because I remember they were talking, him and Constantine about love or something like that, right? Because Constantine just lost her
Mm-hmm.
love. And I remember them having a conversation, but I don't know the details. And I kind of want to go back because I feel like that is kind of like I think it was foreshadowing
Well,
what we saw here.
I think, from what I can recall, it was more so on some, because I remember when we spoke about it, I said he was more so on some. He's beyond the human. He's an entity. He doesn't really have, I guess, the luxury to feel the way like we do. But who's to say now that he has experienced love, um, but he has had 10,000 years to process, digest, and find a way to not really deal like with the way that we deal with love, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like that was a similar explanation that we kind of had for Constantine, right? Like she obviously knows the nature of her
Right.
profession, and she's kind of become numb because she's gone through a lot of
Mm-hmm.
trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's a very similar situation that I think he goes through when it comes
Precisely.
to, like
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned it too, like it's also like he lives forever
Mm-hmm.
and there's like an age thing going on there. Like it's realistically just doesn't, it will always end in tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
So from here, this leads us to, let me see.
We can go. We can. I
Uh,
think because we already kind of talked about the duel. Let's change gears and go over to John and his trip.
no, 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 no. I feel like we have a
Oh
little
my
bit more to
goodness.
talk
What do we
about when it
got?
comes to
What
the
do we
gates of
got?
hell and everything. A couple things. So a couple of notes that I had that were just kind of funny. So, um, very much similar to like the demon, we have Lucifer like taunting Morpheus about his reliance on like his
Mm-hmm.
items, right? And I really, really thought we were gonna get like a Thor, like, are you the god of hammers or are you god of lightning situation, where we saw his powers beyond just the items that he holds, because it's almost like he's obviously not useless without them, but we see that he's very much just vulnerable when he doesn't have
Right.
them, and almost weak, like a lot of characters have continued to make observations on. So I was so disappointed. Like I really thought we were gonna get like a moment where we saw him maybe more like showcase his power without the items, but instead, of course, like he used the sand to kind of um puff off like his feathers and show himself as a powerful person, which looked amazing
Mm-hmm.
regardless. But I was really hoping we were gonna get like a similar situation to that.
Well, let's say even in hell, like it's a totally different realm, you know, because I think it's clear that when he's in his realm, he's basically in his element, and that's the most powerful that he can be, even with all of the items that he has, you know. But like once he goes somewhere else, like say, let's say when he came to Earth for episode 1, you know, he could have been weakened there to the point to where I keep forgetting his name, but the sorcerer pulled him out accidentally. You kind of get what I'm saying? Like I feel like he's strongest in the dream realm, and then everywhere else he's vulnerable.
I do understand what you're saying. Like maybe who knows? Like if he was in the dream realm, would that spell have worked? Like to
Mm-hmm.
pull him in. I see what you're saying. And maybe we'll learn as we keep going. Like it seems like every episode we do get more understanding on like the lore and how these things work, like the protocols,
And
etc.
I think we get an answer episode 5. We'll get to it, but I think it's answered on how episode 5 ended.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, and we'll get there when we get there. Yes, 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 yes. I'm excited. Oh, okay. So we get to see which demon stole the helm,
Mm-hmm.
because we found out in episode 2 that the helm was traded for the amulet of protection, right,
Mm-hmm.
to a demon, which is why we lead here into hell.
Mm-hmm.
And he does not want to give it up, and so they basically come at into like this duel, and it's very Game of Thrones, which I just think it's funny because we have Brienne of Tarth in here,
Mm-hmm.
and because when they duel, right, you pick a champion, you know, and Morpheus picks himself, and the demon makes a very smart choice of picking Lucifer,
Mm-hmm.
who, as Morpheus stated, is comes only second to the creator himself, you know, in terms of power.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get the sensation that like the stakes are real. Obviously, we have several episodes left, and he's the namesake of the series, so we know everything will turn out just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the duel itself, I thought was so cool because I'm like, oh my goodness, this is super fight. That's
It sure
basically
is.
what it was.
Basically, yep, definitely.
And yeah, and like we've talked to you guys about like Super Fight, like the game, because we basically used those same rules when we did our ranking of like Marvel characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, this is basically Super Fight, you know, but just obviously more drama, and if you lose, you die.
Right.
You know.
Right. But it was cool for every answer that they gave to each other. It gave, I guess, a dramatization of the battle that they chose, and then whoever lost that battle, they were physically weakened right there on the spot.
Yeah, and I loved how Matthew is just such a like team player. He's such a like cheerleader to Morpheus, because as Morpheus is about to really lose this battle, I think like the final play that Lucifer plays is like the anti-life beast of judgment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is clearly dissolving like Morpheus, like he's very weakened, and then this is where Matthew says like dreams don't effing die, you know, and then we get a moment that I think for me gives off like I am Iron Man like vibes, because he's like I am, and then he's like hope, you know. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it was very cool. I like the way they did it, and I think it just draws on a lot of different things that for nerds like us it delivers, you know. It felt really cool. I liked how that fight ended.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Honestly, I think we covered the fight. So, if we want to move forward, let's do it.
Sure thing. Let's go ahead. I'm going to bring it to the top of my notes because now we're going to follow John. We are in Buffalo, New York. Do you want to start it off?
Sure. So, in New York, because episode 3 ended with him escaping the hospital, and it got to the point to where he's out wandering the streets. He has his coat from Corinthians, but Corinthian isn't there, so it was just him wandering the streets, and almost gets hit by a car, and then a good Samaritan offers him a ride, right? And everything's going peachy to the point to where she just thought this was gonna be get you from point A to B type situation, where he admits that he's done some wrongdoings with everything that he's done in the past, and I think he kind of explains what he's planning on doing in the future. So this woman, which honestly I didn't know this is Buffalo, New York. Maybe they put it like at the bottom or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I for some reason, because of his accent, thought he was somewhere in a foreign country, and then I recognized, I was like, this woman has an American accent, so this is weird that she's driving him around with her accent, where this could have been a foreign country, but that could have just been something that went over my head. But yeah, then they make it to the gas station, and she's trying to signal like, yo, I'm gonna need you to call 911. This guy over here, you know what I'm saying, is a little nutty, you know. So you feel that kind of, you kind of feel scared for her. And even in that moment when he sees what she's doing, I'm thinking he's going to do something to her, you know.
Mm-hmm. See, I love the way that this was orchestrated, because it's like a sensation of fear that's so like sophisticatedly like orchestrated, because it's suspenseful, you know. It's not like a jump scare. It's this built up of like, oh my god, something that's going to happen, but we do not know when it's going to happen. And it's very like it's a sensation I highly connect with the original Halloween because it's one of the elements that made that film so iconic in its
Mm-hmm.
time. There's no blood at all in that original Halloween, but it evokes so much fear because the same thing, you see the threat, it's approaching, you do not know when it's going to
Mm-hmm.
hit. And that sensation, I think, is just like, it's stressful for like the viewers, you know? So I love the way that they did this. And, you know, John, like, I think genuinely there's like an innocence to him, and there's like naiveness, because I don't really like, he's so traumatized by the lies that his mom gave to him that he's so obsessed with curing that, you know, and he obviously has the means to do so, and he's very clearly like not a well man. Like, he has a couple
Right.
screws unloose. So you give this man power, and we get what we see in episode 5, you know. So Rosemary, such a sweet woman, such a kind woman. Like,
Right.
she's so, even like in the end when it's very clear that he is off his rockers, like, she still says, like, I'm gonna regret this, but do you need to go anywhere else, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I think in the cab ride, like, when they're having the conversation, you know, it shifts so like quickly but yet slowly to her realizing, like, I am in danger and
Right.
this man is a murderer. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where kind of like that trail comes up to the point that she goes to, you know, stops at the gas station when she really didn't need gas. And you know, those things unfold, but it's such a amazing way that this was done. Like, I'm a very big fan of this episode overall.
Okay. Right now, is this your favorite of the 5?
See, like, episode 5 is just so insane that I want to say it's 5, but also it's like, it's insane in a way that I don't like to feel. Episode 4 is like, I definitely appreciate the way that they orchestrated the episode overall, and I love the way each kind of storyline from A and B unfolded. So I will say episode 4 is my overall favorite.
So right now with 1 through 5, let's, like, you say 4 right now in your ranking, and right now episode 1 is my favorite. Even though, like, it's gotten better, I think episode 1 was just so strong in setting a precedent to where it's my favorite out of the 5 so
Oh,
far.
yeah. Yes, and I think I like it for the same reasons that you say. I think it's that it like really does grab you into the story. I think you just need at least like 30 seconds of watching it before before you give up on it, because I we think we both talked about
Right.
how it was so slow in the first 30 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
but everything else, like, was so good. And I think this episode is a good like match to it. I think it's a pivotal moment, I think, in the series, because from there forward, I mean, we haven't gone past episode 5, but we see episode 4, which is strong. Episode 5 is just pure insanity.
Mm-hmm.
I am almost scared to see what happens in episode 6 and 7.
Well, real quick, after she offers him a ride, uh, I think he said no, but offered her the amulet of protection in return, and said that nobody will hurt her, and that's pretty much how the episode ends, right?
Yes, because
Actually,
so
no,
this is
because we do get to the place where the ruby is. That's not how it is. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. So a couple steps before we get there just yet, this episode and this long car ride that we have John and Rosemary, and we get a lot of information that fills in gaps, like a little bit more understanding as to how John ended up in like this maximum security, like, psychiatric ward, hospital, whatever. He tells Mary that he's had to steal, murder, arson, like mayhem. This is obviously where she recognizes that she is in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And he also just talks about like the nature of the human being overall is like selfish, right? We understand that he has this obsession with like people lying. And also he does have like a lot of curiosity to why do people lie? And for her, it's because she's scared. In the following episode, we understand that people lie. Like, for example, I forget her name, but she's like the waitress.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she
It's like
lies
bet
because
or
she
something like
wants people
that.
to like her, you know? And so, yeah, it's just, there's different, like, hope. Like, people lie for hope. Like, there's so many different reasons that people
Mm-hmm.
lie. And it's just interesting that he's so honed into this one flaw that like humanity has, And it's like almost childlike, like how narrow his vision is. And I think that's where, like, although it's a weird word to associate with John, who's clearly unhinged, like he almost has an innocence to him in that sense
Well,
because he truly thinks this is what's going to fix the
well, just
world.
imagine like he's pretty much been lied to by his mom his whole entire life, and then he got put away pretty much by her, and she like and put away just from the destruction of the ruby, you know, and for that, and come to find out he has something, has a ruby that can, I guess, that can keep people from lying, more so telling the truth. Yes, it's is it immature um because this is where his mind's at, that he wants to force the truth out of people, or is it the fact that because he's been hurt for however many years, maybe the world could be better if everybody just told the truth. We'll find out later that it's not, but that was, I can understand his method to his madness.
Sure, and I wouldn't even use the word like immaturity necessarily. I just feel like his development overall is limited because of all the things you said. Like this man was locked away for 30 years. Before that, his whole life his mother lied. And he has suffered for it like significantly. Like you said, like he had access to something that could grant so much power, and obviously he did a lot of bad with
Mm-hmm.
it. um but it's just, it's such a cool like complexity because you fear this character because he obviously wields so much power and he's very unhinged, but also it's like you have a lot of sympathy for him in a situation at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I agree.
See, so I think this is a good point to kind of merge those two
Mm-hmm.
stories, right? We've had story like storyline A and B, Hell, and then Cat Bride, and now this is where they link up because Morpheus obviously he um wins like the battle against Lucifer. He has the helm, he has the sand,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's going after the last item, which is the
Mm-hmm.
ruby. And I believe it's like with both of those items, he's able to basically see
Right.
anything, and that's how he's able to locate the ruby and with the sand appear to where it is. He grabs it and almost like too late realizes that it's actually been tampered with,
Mm-hmm.
and then it kind of creates this like force that knocks him out for a good while. And this is where John enters, right? He's arrived,
Mm-hmm.
like the cab, Rosemary, drives him to this location. He grabs the ruby. This is where he then walks back. She offers him a ride to his next destination, and he gives her the amulet of
Mm-hmm.
protection and kind of goes on his way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how it ends. And now we're going into five, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now we go into episode 5. This is going to be a roller
I'm
coaster.
just gonna tell everyone that's listening, if you haven't watched episode 5, prepare yourself. Okay. it, it starts off decent, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm just going to a
Normal.
diner, get some coffee or whatnot, and then it just it slowly gets like a shadow per se. I don't want to say full dark. Let's say a shadow cast. You know what I'm saying? Even like
Literally.
outside, it gets darker outside, and then by the end of it, it just goes full blackout. You know what I'm saying? It's all the way dark. It's so dark you can't even see. That's how dark it went. You know, until like the very end, to where Dream, he lightened everything up. But like the whole entire episode, I honestly, I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know it was gonna go the direction it did. Like, let's say for instance, right, with the quote unquote power couple that's in the booth, I'm thinking that after because he orders, well, they have a conversation about him ordering a burger and she gets a salad or something like that, and I think down the line he gets the burger that he didn't even order it, but he got the burger, ate it, and then he was about to leave, and then it was something, I guess, from the Ruby that it's like they replayed the whole situation over, you know. So there was a lot of twists and a lot of turns in a matter of like minutes to where it's like your mind is just blown throughout the whole thing.
It is like such an interesting development. It's definitely an episode you have to really pay attention, because if you walk away for 5 seconds and come back, it's almost a completely different
Right.
episode, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way you said that, because like the exterior changes the mood of what's going on inside the diner, right? So we start off like everything's very bright. It's like definitely daytime. And as the story unfolds and things become more hectic and darker, so does like the outside. It gets gloomy, like almost like it's a overcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then it shifts to just full on like pitch black, to the point that you're only getting glimpses of what ends up being dead bodies
Mm-hmm.
in a pool of darkness. It's insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Like you don't know what you're gonna end up with by like from when you start the episode to the end. Like there's no way you could have guessed that, you know?
Right. Um.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So say this episode, I'm gonna say there's two. There's the couple. There's the girl with the girlfriend. That's three. There's the interviewee, the waitress, and the chef. Right. Six individuals. Oh, and John. So I'm not gonna count John because John is pretty much manipulating everybody. But when it comes down to these six different people, everybody has six different stories, right? But it just comes down to the point where let's start off with the waitress. I think her name was like Bet. I don't know if it was short for Betty or something like that, but it was just like I think they kept calling her Bet. She seemed like a normal waitress, being nice, being cordial, doing what waitresses do in terms of customer service, you know. And I think it got to the point to where she asked him what he'll have, and she called him handsome. And I've gotten compliments like that from a waitress before in the past, you know, and it's just I don't take it for anything. It's just something that they say to be nice, you know, to be welcoming to that restaurant, you know. But John being John, in terms of where he is in his mindset, in terms of people needing to tell the truth, he now, being that now he's the only one to use the ruby, he's using the ruby on site to make people tell the truth. And by that, it's little harmless things like her saying handsome, to the point to where it's just like, you don't really mean that, right? Like forcing her to reveal the truth, and the look in her eyes, it's like it's hurt that she has to explain the truth to him, you know.
Yeah, and it's like it's just the way that this slowly starts to unfold into what it does, which is basically everyone is like dead. You see each of these stories, like the almost like the masks that people keep up with, like the lies that they tell, and it's like not all of them huge lies. Like hers, she's like she lies minutely here and there because she wants people to like her, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
we learn that she's a writer and she doesn't really put enough time into her craft because she works, she has a son, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just love how this entire episode focuses on such an intimate kind of setting of just like a diner and the six characters it holds, but it's meant to reflect the chaos that is ensuing worldwide because of John. And we get this from like the TV that's on the sideline. It's almost like it's giving almost like a soft narrative in the background. Like if you listen to
It's like
it,
news
it's
reports of
talking
like the
about
mayhem
how
outside of the restaurant.
yes,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we see it line up with what's happening to these individuals, and I feel like it's so powerful because they could have easily just been like, "And there's mayhem everywhere," and we see that in episode one, where we get a narrative of like, oh, and people fall asleep and they never wake up, but because we're not seeing like an intimate, drawn out like example of what that looks like, it doesn't mean as much. Like here, we understand the gravity of what John has just disrupted. And I love that they did it this way. And I was going to compare like the news like the newscast, like in the TV in the background to they do something similar in it. Like if you listen to the like radio or the TV in the background when the story shifts from something that's kind of wholesome, right? You see the kids, all these things, their friendship, etc. And when it starts to get warped by its presence, the audio from the TV starts to talk about sewers and clown and this, and it's very similar in the way that I think they utilize that storytelling like tool.
But say with that, I wouldn't have understood until the very end of the episode to where Sandman shows up in, I guess, the city, and whatever entity that shows up later. Like we see the destruction, but like while in the diner, I'm honestly thinking, it's like, yeah, it's news, but to me here in real life, all news is bad news. So I thought it was just on some regular news reporting. Oh, it's this happened in this country, this happened over here. It's never really anything good in the news, so that's why I didn't really pay any attention to it until the very end of this episode. And I was like, oh, this is all happening because of John.
Yeah, and it's almost very cool the way that happens and the way that you experience it. 'Cause I'm sure I kind of experienced it very similarly. It wasn't until afterwards I realized what they were doing with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost like love that experience because I think that it's meant to be like that because you don't realize the parallels until it gets to the very end because it's so gruesome where it kind of leads. And I think the last kind of newscast that you get is like, oh, there's worldwide assault and violence.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's insane. So it's such an interesting episode, but I love that they did that because this idea that the world has just drawn and fallen into chaos because of just everyone telling the truth
Mm-hmm.
could have easily just been spoken, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this allows us to really understand the gravity of what that means, which I think is great. Like I love all of it.
Yeah.
Despite it's like it's a hard watch. Like it gets really hard, especially towards the end. Like you know what I mean? It gets super dark.
Yeah, and just with everything being said just now, as far as talking about this episode, I think honestly, like, do you want to go story for story, or I think just as far as what we kind of talked about so far has summed up everything that's happened. I don't want to really get into every story of each six of those characters, if that's cool.
I agree 1,000%. Honestly, and I feel like everything we talked about basically sums up what this episode is meant to serve. For those of you who have seen it, you guys know exactly what we're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who have not, luckily we haven't spoiled too much for you,
Right.
and you guys will definitely enjoy the watch, and then you guys will kind of get that understanding of what we're talking about. So I think we're good.
Or will you enjoy the watch? It was hard. It was hard. Like it was
was a
like,
hard
what is
watch.
going on here? Like, and just to prove that like all of this is coming from not necessarily John, but this is the power of, honestly, this is the power of Dream. Like this is what he uses, like more so to protect humans from themselves. And it was unfortunate that John got a hold of the ruby, and him using it pretty much proved why this world needs Dream.
Yes, and actually, there is a couple of things that we can discuss a little bit further, not necessarily further, but just make comments on.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fates appear in this, right? Like he
Mm-hmm.
somehow does summon the fates, and they kind of talk to him about like there is no future for you, etc., etc. You will crush the Dream Lord's life with your hands, and this is where then Morpheus enters, and he's saving the world from its life. I like it's just very interesting, and he says like like you're the dream, like you're the Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
And this is of course like where how you mentioned he says like these aren't lies, John, like these are dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Like people, like this is what the world looks like without dreams,
Right.
um and then John experiences all these nightmares, and he ends up in like the dream realm. Things are shattered. Let's and then ultimately, like, the ruby gets, like, destroyed essentially, and the power is released, which basically empowers Morpheus
Mm-hmm.
in the end, giving him the ability to defeat John. And, he says, like, I could kill you. However, like, this ruby came to you, like, by no fault of your
Mm-hmm.
own, and it was not meant to be, like, wielded by
Mm-hmm.
humans. Like he doesn't necessarily blame him for where he ended up. Kind of like what we were talking about. Like, he has had a hard life. So it's just, I do like the way it ended, because it's almost easy to get lost in this episode and forget what the bigger picture is about. So I think those final few minutes definitely connects it to then, what we will see coming forward.
I want to see, honestly, I want to see Dream kill somebody, because as of right now, I'm sorry to say that, but as of right now, he has put John and I forgot his brother's name from episode 1, but he put John and his brother to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, can we do some damage, Sandman? I know you're Sandman, King of Dreams, but you were just in prison for 100 years by this whole entire family. You know what I'm saying? You should just go ahead and wreak havoc.
Just let
Let
loose. We
loose.
wouldn't blame you. Yeah.
Yeah.
For a man who holds a grudge, he's very merciful. I was gonna say this episode also ends with him. He's like, tomorrow the rebuilding begins, but tonight humanity will sleep in peace.
Mhm.
And we do see one of his siblings,
Mhm.
like, ominously in the corner saying, like, I see you, big brother.
Mhm.
And so, with what we mentioned at the beginning of this episode and listing the siblings, right? So we get the endless, and I'm going to repeat them one more time from just like oldest to youngest. We have destiny, death, dream, destruction, desire, despair, and delight.
Mhm.
So, being that dream, it's kind of smackish in the middle. This person can either be destruction, desire, despair, or delight. I'm going to say it's destruction, just based on the very little glimpse that we got of him.
I think it's desire. Just from, I think, the trailer that we got, and after the episode 1 ended, that little trailer or whatnot. I don't know, the little mashup that they put together. But either way, in terms of this character, just kind of referencing back to what we were talking about with Morpheus in hell and taking any form of whatever. I honestly don't know what this person is. If man or woman. It's really, it's really. I was like, I think I saw a woman face and a man voice, but I don't know. That may have just been me.
Did it just look feminine to you? What is gender?
Right.
Like, who are we to assume?
Yeah, I don't know. So we will see episode 6, and we're gonna chat about 6 and 7 soon. I gotta look at the schedule because we may be talking about something else next week. But you want to move forward from here to She-Hulk?
Yes. Such a crazy transition to go from episode 5 of Sandman into episode 4 of She-Hulk, because the tones are just drastically different.
Dark to light. Let's do it. I like light being
let's
later,
do it.
because when it comes down to like scary movies, I need something light. Especially if I see it at night.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I need that light.
Okay. So the last scary movie that I saw in theaters was Insidious. Have you seen the movie?
I've seen them all. I love them.
Oh, you've seen them? Okay. This movie traumatized me. Like, I don't think I saw a scary movie, period, for like 5 years after that film, because it just really traumatized me. But this is okay. This is back when like my TV had like the DVD and like the, what is it,
VHS.
VHS.
It's cool. I'm old. I know it. It's all good.
And I had like this Barney VHS. No, Winnie Pooh. And like whenever I was scared and woke up in the middle of the night, I would just like pop it in, and that was how I would fall asleep, because I could not. And with Insidious, this was literally like a night, like a daily occurrence, because I just needed it. So yeah, this is go from Sandman into
Let me stop you right here. Just because of the news that came out maybe about a month ago of the Winnie the Pooh horror movie that's being made, are you gonna see that or no?
This is the first that I'm hearing of this, and this is like my what is it called? My safe place meets like my nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Lord.
Yep.
Definitely.
It's
That
not
song is such a
associated
weird
with like
matchup.
Disney. This is somebody had the rights to of a version of Pooh, and now they're making it like a scary like horror film or something like that. Yeah.
Wow. Well, keep in mind, so Winnie the Pooh, I believe, is originally Russian.
Mm.
And it's actually really funny in Russian. I have a client who like shared it with me and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so like it's kind of like what Disney does, but like the Snow White, Cinderella, etc. These are stories that have lived on for many years, and so it makes sense that maybe something else like took a different adaptation. I think it's so funny that it's such a like twist and such opposite ends of how we've received it as kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, First time I'm hearing of it, I think I'm gonna have to watch it. Do you know when it comes out?
No, like initially I heard this on the radio, right? I was just driving and they're like, "Oh, this is about to happen. The scary version of Winnie the Pooh." And then it wasn't until like it was honestly later in the week. I was driving on Laurel Canyon in Studio City, and there was a billboard for it. So I don't remember the date, but it's coming, y'all. Like
We'll keep
it's
an eye out.
official. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
craziness.
Didn't think we'd be discussing that today, but here we
Oh, we're
are.
not gonna chat about it. I'm gonna watch it, but that's never gonna see the light of this stream. We're gonna keep it.
You're right.
We're gonna keep it
We
separate.
have standards.
Yep,
We have
exactly.
standards here. All right, let's get into She-Hulk.
Okay.
So this episode, I mean, it just follows like the tune of the other ones. It's just a continuation of like that whole lawyer setup.
Mhm.
And this time, Jennifer Walters is defending Wong
Mhm.
against like this fake magician,
Mhm.
you know? And I think it's so like so interesting because it seems like he was a disciple of like the temple and then he decided to do his own thing, kind of like what we saw that one character do in the first Doctor Strange. But he basically kind of cheapens the teachings of the mystic arts
You're
and
referring
becomes
to
this
the magician, not Wong.
the magician. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, the
let's
magician
make that
that
clear. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
hold on, don't talk of Wong
Oh,
like
I
that.
would never. I would never. No, but this magician, I just can't recall his name right now, but I'll pull it for you guys. But he basically like uses these teachings and leaves the school, leaves the temple, and cheapens like the art of like the mystic arts, you know, and to become kind of like this sideshow attraction, you know, gaining a following, winning fans. But Wong sees that he's actually a threat to society because he's kind of wielding this magic very like willy-nilly and not understanding that there are consequences. So Wong sues them. Jennifer Walters gives a cease and desist, and the story kind of ensues from there.
Let me bring it back real quick. Just because this is, let's say this is episode 4, but so far out of the 4 episodes, we've gotten 2 episodes of Wong here, and I would say for the last year, I've been wanting to see more Wong pause in the Disney Plus shows. I feel like we could have used Wong in Miss Marvel, like just to kind of connect the dots, even if it's not connecting to Shang-Chi like we predicted, just being that her powers are quote unquote mystical. I would think he would be the one person to analyze it just like he did in Shang-Chi. You know what I'm saying? But now we're getting, and I don't have a problem with how much Wong we are getting here in She-Hulk, but it's like we're using not John Wong for the comedic episodes or the comedic show, where he right now, especially phase 4 going into phase 5 and him being the Sorcerer Supreme, I feel like should have had a little bit more present even in the other shows.
I understand what you're saying, and I definitely agree because we talked about how in Miss Marvel we definitely kind of expected something, and I feel like Wong would have been an appropriate like cameo in that series, and it would have maybe given us a better explanation of what her powers are. Because honestly, to this point, it's TBD, you know.
Right.
And I do understand. I wonder if, like, would you say this is similar to how they kind of treated Thor's character in Thor: Love and Thunder? That these are two like very powerful entities and beings, but they've kind of been brought down to like the comedic relief, at least in recent projects. Do you think that you would compare those two to that?
Uh, I wouldn't say so, just because even from the first appearance of Wong in Doctor Strange, though he was the quote unquote serious badass of who he was still the comedic factor in that. So he always had that in his storyline here in the MCU. But though he may have that comedic factor, he is now the Sorcerer Supreme, and he demanded, that respect from Strange to be, the Sorcerer Supreme. So there is a seriousness to him, and especially that title, So, I think here, especially in this episode starts with like after we kind of get the whole magician thing, and then Wong kind of disapproving. Jennifer, she breaks that fourth wall, and it's like, yeah, it's like, you see Wong, I know we're all happy, we're all thrilled, and it's true. We want to see more. So though she kind of made it a joke to say that we wanted to see it, it's, I think, a fact, especially for me, that Wong is such a strong character that we should have seen more earlier on. And now, I don't want to say they're making a mockery of it, but now she's just like, I know y'all love that, we just got more Wong, so I don't know.
I feel like it is kind of true to the story. However, not the story, but the series, because I think that they bring a lot of like the fandom commentary into this, right? And they kind of puts it as part of the world of the MCU,
right.
Which I think
we
is
talked
kind
about
of cool.
it last time, how it's kind of just
we talked about it last
yeah,
time.
mm-hmm.
Like different theories, like the discourse with, I think, the part of the fandom that has a lot of misogynistic views, especially with projects in this phase. And here I think, Wong has been like the superstar of this phase. Like, I think we love whenever he shows up. I think in Multiverse of Madness, he had such a cool scene when he first comes in and he's attacking like a Gigantus, the eyeball guy.
Right.
And so I think like definitely here we're getting a lot more of a lighthearted version of Wong. However, he's still serious. Like, I think that's what makes it funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's so serious in like it's just I think that's the comedic factor and element to him. So it is, I think, true to the character, like you mentioned, that is that way we were introduced to him in Doctor Strange, right? He was the serious guy, which created like this comedic element,
mm-hmm.
and we're just seeing it, I think, a little stronger in this series. But it makes sense with also like the tone of the series too.
But before we move forward, I do want to kind of bring up, just to kind of go back to the point of them, or this show in particular, kind of bringing up just like the fandom and everything like that. I don't know if we talked about it last week, but even if we did and you were muted, we didn't even hear you. Let's talk about when she was on the job search and something popped up on her screen, and you pointed it out to me later on Instagram. So we get two references here. We get the first post, like, say, whatever website, let's call it Craigslist, there was like some side ads to the right of the screen, and then like one of them is like man with metal claws in a bar fight, so us as fans like, oh, it's a Wolverine reference. And then right underneath it's just like man coming out of the ocean, out of the Indian Ocean. So this show is the first reference to what happened in the Eternals, so like we've been wondering, it's like, when are they going to bring it up? How are they going to bring it up? Are they ever going to bring it up? And they brought it up here as like a post next to some job listings.
It is so funny because it's like, I'm telling you, it's like they put so much discourse in the fandom into the show that in and of itself is a fourth wall break. And it's so cool how they do that. And I think it's funny because if you read it, I think it's almost word of like what the hell is this, like, like statues sticking out of the water. You know what I mean? It's almost worded in the way that we like kind of like is anyone gonna address this statue that's sticking out of the water? It's just so similar, and I think it's really funny. And I know you've been waiting for it, so I was like, when I saw it, I'm like, dude, it happened and we missed it, you
Mm-hmm.
know? But it's like those finite details I think in the series that I think make this series what it is. And that's what Marvel does. Like we always get these little Easter eggs. You already know that if you look at license plates, they're usually some reference to some comic dates, releases, whatever. And I think this is just one of those things that they orchestrate so well of just weaving little things here and
Mm-hmm.
there that connects these stories in a way that we expect them to for the MCU.
Yeah. Do you think we'll get more of a reference to the man in the Indian Ocean?
Maybe not more than what we got. I think that may be it for this
That's
series.
no, 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 no,
But
no, no. I'm not talking about like here in She-Hulk. I'm just saying
in
in
general,
general. Do you think
oh
like
yeah,
She-Hulk
like
just
we have
capped
to.
it, just like, all right, we referenced it, and now we're never gonna bring it back up ever?
No, I think it's we're going to have to hear about it again. If anything, they're like, guys, like it's not part of the main story just yet. Like keep like wait, you know, and maybe they just added it to be like we're acknowledging it. We didn't forget about it, and it's probably going to come up maybe in more importance
Yeah.
down the road.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so. But I'm excited to see what other discourse they kind of weave into the series because we get something new every single time, like every single episode.
Oh, but let's say my discourse with this episode, okay? So the way it opens and it's a magic show, and it's just like introducing Donnie Blaze, and I was like, that's not Ghost Rider. that's that's not Johnny. You know what I'm saying? And I think the poster that I saw uh on Instagram or whatnot of this magic show, I think me and everybody else was just so blinded by the Ani Blaze, we didn't even pay attention to the D or the J. We were just like, oh, Ghost Rider's cameoing here. You know what I'm saying?
I thought it was going to be maybe like a relative to Ghost Rider or something because it's Donnie, not Johnny. Like I did pick up on that piece. And I was excited. I thought this was like a news thing. I thought this was a connection thing because we did see like the Ghost Rider poster in some of the trailers for She-Hulk. So I was like, oh, it's finally coming in. It was one of the characters that we um, theorized would appear on the show as part of like the long list of cameos we expect to receive.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the fandom has reason to have gotten excited for this kind of similar name, and maybe it's foreshadowing that it's coming around the corner. I don't know, but I thought it was gonna like they were gonna make a. I thought they was gonna be connected. I thought they were gonna be like, oh, and you know, make like my cousin Johnny or something. You know what I mean? Something like that is what I was thinking would
I'm
happen.
I'm I'm right here to the point where I'm just like, he's not in it. I'm just saying. My hopes were crushed by this episode, and I'm just like, he's not coming. He's not.
It's like you know the deadbeat dad that says he's gonna pick you up on
Right.
Saturday morning to
Mm-hmm.
go to Disneyland, and you're just like it's
I was
12
waiting for
o'clock.
Ghost Rider. Yep. I was waiting. Yep. It's
Oh
gone. He's
Lord.
gone. We're not gonna get him, and if we do, it's probably gonna be later in the MCU. I don't see us getting Ghost Rider here in She-Hulk.
I'm excited for these cameos. Like they really set the bar by saying that this is going to be such a cameo heavy
Mm-hmm.
series. And we're on episode like 4, and I'm a little underwhelmed because we really only got Wong and we got Abomination,
Mm-hmm.
and both of these were basically confirmed previously. Daredevil
Mm-hmm.
is already confirmed. We've seen even like a bigger cut of like his entry, I think, into the
Yeah.
series. So I hope by the end of it we're like overwhelmed by how many new people we're getting introduced to because at this point it's not as many as I thought. Like these are all known,
Right.
you know?
And the way that I think the episode ended, even though we're going to talk more about the episode, is like we're coming back to Titania, and being that actress was in like on the panel at Comic-Con, I was expecting more, so we're finally going to get more in the following episode next week, you know? But right now I think we're so far we're going to get Daredevil, we're going to get more of her, and who's to say we'll get maybe like 1 to 2 other cameos, because how many episodes is this season? Is it 8 or is it 6?
Let me double check. I want to say this is actually a little bit of a longer season from what I'm remembering. Yeah, 9 episodes.
Okay.
So this is actually, I think, one of the higher episode like count
Okay.
for MCU.
Okay. So then there is a possibility that we'll get more. I was already thinking if it's 4 episodes, and like some of the seasons have they been six
Six.
episodes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's been some with six.
Yeah. So I was
Absolutely.
already like expecting it's like, oh, we're already rounding it out. We're already we're coming to an end. Episode 5 is next week, and then 6 after that. So being that there's 9, then sure we can get a few more cameos for sure.
I guess so. Like, I guess you're right. We do have some time. And I think we are getting close to the Daredevil cameo. I'm actually surprised we haven't gotten it yet, being that it's one we knew was gonna
Mm-hmm.
come. But I don't mind waiting. I'm excited.
Well,
I think. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say we're gonna see just simply for the fact that just based on location. She's in LA and he's in New York. So who's to say when we were going to get that? But at the end of the day, now that I say it, now that I'm talking right now, I realize that she's the head of superhero law, and superhero law doesn't just limit itself to LA. I'm just gonna assume that it's be global. So eventually, they'll meet up, and hopefully that'll be next episode, episode 5.
Yes, I'm like I can't wait because the last time I saw him in the MCU was No Way Home,
Mm-hmm.
which was almost like a year ago. Really, like I think we're towards the end of the of 2022,
Mm-hmm.
so it's almost getting close to that year mark. Let's see. Oh, a big storyline of this episode is like Jennifer Walters is trying to get into the dating
Mm-hmm.
scene, going into some online dating. Did you ever experience that realm? Did you ever go down that
I
rabbit
sure
hole?
did.
What is your experience with that? I never did. And so like
it
I
it was as for me, honestly. Okay, all right. Quick little tidbit.
love listening to you.
When all right, so when I first moved out here to LA, 2014 was a huge year for Tinder because Tinder came out, I think, 2013. So it just started budding out, and when I was in Virginia, I was swiping but wasn't really finding anything. I didn't really go on too many dates in Virginia, but once I came out here, I moved into an apartment with my college buddy who made Tinder look so easy, and I was the person that it just wasn't. And every interaction, it was awkward. It wasn't real. Like it was like, oh hey, yeah, we matched, da 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 da, and nothing really built for that. I mean, built for me from that. So, me luckily right now, my relationship was more organic. We met in person and fell in love.
Old school.
But yeah, me
I
and
was
so
lucky enough that that was what happened to me, so I didn't even have to really play around with the whole like online dating
yeah,
scene.
yeah, yeah.
Which I'm grateful for because I think many people don't really have the best experience on there if they're really looking for like a relationship, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like your experience is basically what we see unfold for Jennifer
For
Walters, you
sure,
know?
definitely. Like it wasn't like to the point to where, at least I don't think I thought I was. If anything, I was in the seat of Jennifer Walters, to where I would go out on dates, and I think I'd be maybe more so paying attention. There may have been a couple instances to where I can see the person kind of losing interest, and I was like, okay, well, this was nice, bye. You know what I'm saying? And you can see that's pretty much how what she went through.
Yeah, pretty much. And, I think, she was very resistant because her friend told her, like, just, why are you posting, like, your professional, like, picture for, like, the law firm as your, like, Tinder profile? And she's really trying to get her to do, like, a She-Hulk picture and, like, get more prospects. And ultimately she does. Like, she kind of gives in because she's getting all these duds as Jennifer
Mm-hmm.
Walters. And so as She-Hulk, gets like a lot of different
Matches.
prospects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not a lot of them great. She still doesn't get a lot of great ones. She ends up like meeting this doctor who, comes off really nice, from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of check in all the things that she's looking for. He's a professional. He's like respectful, etc., a gentleman, and then, you know, he turns out to just be an a-hole all along. Very unimpressed by the fact that she's actually just Jennifer Walters,
Right.
not like She-Hulk,
Right.
which is known. Like, if you look at the news, you know Jennifer Walters is She-Hulk. This is the big news, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, so it's just it's
Let me
very
ask you
unfair for her.
this, okay? This I want you to give an honest opinion, okay? Just on how she looks as Jennifer Walters versus how she looks as the Hulk. The Hulk is more so, I can say, an over exaggeration of what she already looks like, just bigger and longer hair, or not even longer hair, let's say straighter hair. So let's say if she, back in human form, lost the curls and went straighter, do you think she would have a better chance on her Tinder profile?
No, I don't really think that's like a big association in this situation. I feel like people are just gravitated towards like the idea of She-Hulk, like we saw in a lot of the dates. A lot of them were like, "How much do you bench? Well, I can bench." Like it's like it's
It's not
not
about the looks,
like
it's just more so about her
the
being She Hulk.
yeah, I feel like the interest a lot of people have in her is very superficial. Like we saw in a lot of her dates, and the one that seemed very genuine was like, "Well, I only want She-Hulk," but that the thing is that she's not just She-Hulk. You
Mm-hmm.
know, she's Jennifer Walters, attorney at law, and so um, she's yet to find her match. You know, and it's so sad to see. Like she's so excited. You know, it's like the next morning she's made breakfast, and you know he's very clearly disappointed to see her, and she's just like, well, I'm Jennifer Walters, like, this is my normal me. And then he just is like, I'm going to go home. You
Mm-hmm.
can keep my sweater.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think she just needs like her own version of Romanoff, you know, someone who knows both sides, and who's to say another prediction would be Matt Murdock.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. I need to see if they ever date in the comics.
It could be something new, you know what I'm saying? Feige could just be on some, all right, we've kind of gone off script with Myth Marvel here, you know, why not continue to go off script and just let's make some matchmaking between some newer characters in Phase 5, being that Daredevil is a quote unquote new character in the MCU, you know what I'm saying? So why not just blend them together, you know, put them two together.
See, unfortunately, like, all of the, I think articles and everything are all just driven directly into the show. So it's just like, oh, when will Daredevil like show up? But I found an article from Marvel.com published September 8th, 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and it says the many loves of She-Hulk. So let's walk down this lane for a
Okay.
moment. So since her introduction in 1980, Jennifer Walters has learned a lot about love from Wyatt Wingfoot, Tony Stark, Hercules, who we know by Thor: Love and
Mm-hmm.
Thunder is about to enter the big screen,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe the small screen as well. And it says, and so many, many more. So let me see if I get a longer list as I scroll down.
Well, I just saw a trailer right today actually, and it's more of Matt Murdock in this trailer, and then it's like he shows up onto the scene in his Daredevil suit, and I think she comments it's just like on some it's like I don't know what he's doing, but it's doing it for me, you know. So I think she was kind of like attracted to the Daredevil, you know. So
I love that.
yeah.
I mean, I ship. And okay, so a couple more. We get Luke Cage, John Jameson III, aka the Man Wolf, Jack of Hearts. These ones are a little bit more like third, like tertiary superheroes, not very known, very Suicide Squad-y, if you will, and that they're just not really known in the comics as much. And I think this is like the list I get. So not particularly a ship that they have in the comics, but it seems like we're going to see it unfold in the series, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, from the people that you just listed, minus maybe the last two, I think everybody were, and minus Iron Man, they were all, she's like attracted to strong dudes like Hercules, Luke Cage. Actually, Luke Cage isn't strong. He's just indestructible, you know. So I don't know. That's just kind of what I got from that. But I'm here to see her and Daredevil on screen.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's like it's also like I think a trope that like men can be very intimidated by very like strong like career driven women.
Mm.
I think that's you're kind of seeing unfold, and a lot of them it's more like of a like an ego boost. You know what I mean? A lot of them are just like I just want to see if I'm stronger than you. How much can you bench? Like it's just very weird. So hopefully like maybe with Daredevil it's a completely different story. I would love for them. I would love to see that unfold. I think that would be
Yeah.
amazing. So okay. Oh, first of all, so when it comes to the storyline of like the magician, of course, like they go to court
Mm-hmm.
and we meet a character. Well, we see her at the beginning, but we see her throughout this episode. Her name, I think it's Madeline. Hold on, I think I have it pulled up right here.
I just know her as the drunk girl.
The drunk. I think it's Madeline, and the Y is not where you think it is. I love this character so much. Like, if you look at the memes right now online since like the episode aired yesterday, she is like the queen of the episode. So like Madison, I think falls in line of the the secondary character or like the friend, the sidekick, if you will.
Girlfriend?
How they've been really
Girlfriend
shining. No, like they've been. Oh, for Wong?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
What do you think?
You know what? You know what it is? I love their friendship more than anything. Like, I love their friendship because at the end of the episode, they're like watching movies. They're like talking about their drinks, and then he says like what his favorite drink, and then she's like Wongers. Like, oh my god, I love it. I love them as friends, and I love that they're so different. But Wong genuinely like enjoys her company. Right. Like to me, I just think it's such a funny dynamic, and I think she just is a great addition to those like to the great like best friends we're seeing like tag along our superheroes in this like phase. I love her. I'm obsessed. Like she's like the hero of this of this episode.
Quick question. After the previous episode, is Wong a wanted fugitive or no?
Technically, yes. And then he still appears in the courtroom where I think he could have easily like maybe they have a warrant for his arrest.
Right.
You know, so yeah.
It's like it's pretty bold to ask your lawyer to sue and appear in court when you just admitted to treason, basically.
To like assisting in like an
escape. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Wong is a ballsy dude, you know, like he doesn't care.
He's not worried. He's not worried about these human laws, you know what I'm saying? Like when she mentioned something, it's like we gotta do things by the book, and he's like, yeah, the book of Ashanti. And she's like, nah, the human law book. And he's like, oh, that.
It's just so funny, and I think that's one of the things I think is like the comedic element is like it kind of like flies over his head that there are certain rules and protocols that we have to follow as like citizens of this world, you know. It's really funny, and you know, like the magician that's like kind of messing everything up that Wong is suing. He obviously like bites off more than he can chew, and we get this like scene that for me is very similar to Harry Potter. I think it's like the second one with I think it's like Professor Lockhart, where he thinks he can control like the Cornish pixies, and then it just is mayhem, and they're like attacking students and I don't know what, and he just like runs off and tells the kids to handle it themselves. And in this case, it's the magician goes and asks help from Wong. Wong gets help from She-Hulk. And this is, you know, I think they basically say like, we expect your agreement to our terms, like by the morning. Right, you know what I mean? Right. And they end up winning their case.
Well, let's talk about. I want to talk about the magician more so. His ring, real quick. What is that ring called? That everybody in Commentage has?
It's his. Why am I like spacing on it? I literally have it in my cart on Etsy.
But you're ordering one?
Really quickly. Is it Sling Wing?
Yes, but wait, you're ordering one?
Okay, from the same company that I got your like Iron Man, her little
Ah.
thingy. They have so many things. So one of the things I really want, so I have a sling ring, and they also have the power stone inside like the orb
Mm-hmm.
that they have it in Guardians of the Galaxy. So there's a couple of things I really want to get, and those are like the two on my list
Okay.
because I feel like I can just wear the ring as like regular jewelry.
That's pretty cool.
Like those who know will know,
Mm-hmm.
but those who don't are just like, dude, that's awesome, you know?
So say with this magician and his ring, right? Say if anything, though he learned something at Carmitage, because from my understanding, I think he had only been there for a week before they kicked him out or something like that. But
Yep.
like even with that, he makes a doorway, a portal into what Wong describes as another dimension, to where the drunk girl goes through and then comes back in through Wong, right? So into where Wong is. But here's where my confusion lies, because though she said that in order for her to get out, she made a deal with a demon to get out there with like 4 drops of blood from her. Uh,
Let me say it.
Go ahead. What?
Mephisto.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is lit. I literally, when this happened, I was like, Mephisto. We have it's been a meme. It is a meme in the MCU at this part. At this point, ever since like WandaVision,
Mm-hmm.
anytime there's any devilish association, like now we jokingly, it's just like Mephisto. You know. So I just said it was excited because we haven't had the opportunity to say it in a little while.
And be that as it may, like even if it is right, like first we've known the sling ring to make doorways into other parts of the quote unquote Earth, but Wong is talking about now it has the power to go to different dimensions or whatnot. So it's like it now piques my interest into what else can the sling ring do. You know, I thought it was just
Yeah.
transporting from one place to another on the regular plane, on the human plane on Earth, but now you can go pretty much anywhere, and I'm going to assume it's like you can go anywhere that's in the same universe, just to kind of stick to that same kind of guideline that there are multiple dimensions in a universe, you know. So if anything, now I'm just like, okay, now they're bringing the idea of the sling ring, just taking you now to different dimensions. We already knew about the mirror dimension, and now I guess that solidifies it, you know, because of that, because of knowing that Doctor Strange used it to put people into the mirror dimension. Then why not? I think now it makes more sense to me.
Yeah, and you know something, I think it's important because although we know that they can, go into the mirror dimension, which obviously is it's a different dimension, it's a different realm, whatever. I'm using it interchangeably, but we've already addressed
Sure.
that they might actually be different. But it's all within this universe,
Right.
right? As we said, and that's key. We're not talking about being able to transport to a different universe because that's a very rare ability, as we saw from Multiverse of Madness. But I think it is good that they kind of established that here, that the sling ring does allow them to go to different dimensions and realms within this universe, because it may not be clear. I feel like we associate the mirror dimension so closely to like Doctor Strange, like we learned it in there. And so I think once we started getting the concepts of like multiverse, et cetera, sacred timeline, I feel like that could have gotten lost in translation. So I think it is important that they kind of reestablished it here, and maybe it's going to be important as we go forward.
Well, as of right now, with all of this being said, as of right now, um, what was her name? America, is that her name? That was in Doctor Strange.
Yes, America Chavez.
America Chavez right now is I would put at, I forgot where we ranked her on the rankings, but if she wasn't at the top, she's at the top, just simply for the fact that now, on top of being a multiversal traveler, she's becoming a multidimensional traveler as well, you know. So that's just something to consider kind of going forward with her.
Oh yeah, I mean, she has the ability to travel different universes, which is something that the Scarlet Witch didn't even have the ability to do.
Mm-hmm.
And she went toe to toe with the Scarlet Witch. I mean, ultimately, the only person to stop the Scarlet Witch was the Scarlet Witch.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, she was able to go toe to toe with her. So her ranking definitely is very high. And I think it's a good thing to contrast to what Wong is able to do in all of the sorcerers, which is they can't hop universes, but they can go within different dimensions, etc. So it's cool that they did like re-establish it in this episode.
Yeah. So in court, the magician pretty much, I don't want to say he won because there wasn't really a settlement at that point, but he continued to do a magic show, and then from there he released all of these hellish creatures, right? So Wong arrives. And here, do you think, if anything, instead of going to She-Hulk for help, it could have been something he could have called Strange to do?
Sure, I mean, completely. I wonder if maybe because, you know, she's the lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because he says it like I like call my lawyer. And I think it's more so because she's involved in the case. I feel like it makes sense for her to be there because this is obviously something that would benefit them in their case.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if anything, that's why he called her instead of Doctor Strange. And I'm sure if, say, for some reason they weren't able to control the situation, then I mean, who else would he call but Doctor Strange?
And we don't even know where he sent them. Honestly, he looked like he was back on the mountain to where he was with Wanda. You know, he just sent them like on top of on Wondergore, the remains of Wondergore or whatnot. You know, so I don't even know if they left Earth. He just he just closed the porter to wherever they would come from, and then just let them fly wherever. I was like, okay, cool. You could have put them back where they came from, but now you're making it a worldly problem of Wong.
Yes. Okay, so kind of talking about like timeline, and I think we need to like readjust it just because it can get foggy with all these projects, movies, TV shows, etc. And I think we have a rough one somewhere in the notes, but this series is meant to have happened not too long after Shang-Chi, and I believe these two events actually happened before the events of Multiverse of Madness.
Oh,
I believe.
Interesting.
And I think that is kind of important because I think Multiverse of Madness is a very like turn. You know what I mean? It's a monumental film just in terms of like the MCU and like how that affects like the universe. You know, so technically, I don't think they haven't had that like altercation on Wondergore, but Wong obviously knows of Wondergore because that's where he led Wanda. So maybe you're right. He's like, hey, Wondergore Mountain has demons, you know, or has all this ominous stuff. Like, let's just dump them there, you know?
Damn, what if they all like became full grown and then those were the demons that you fought like on Wondergore? Interesting.
Oh, we did it. We did it again.
Look at that. We're on a roll. That's like 2 or 3 in the same show. Look at that, y'all. Killing it.
Man, just for you.
Yep.
Just
yep.
For you. I love that.
So he sends the demons there, and then Jennifer, she ends up going back to her date, right? She comes back all slimy, and I like, if slimy She-Hulk just fell on top of me, I'm just like, you want to shower first? Like, you got something in your hair. Some is like me. I have a weak stomach. That's just me. Like, anything and everything just grosses me out. But either way, she was still in the mood. You know what I'm saying? And who's to say it's like, hey, I found a guy, you know, who's finally interested in me. For me, she fell for like the dinner date, and she was like, it's my time. It's my turn. You know what I'm saying? So she just went for it all out.
I feel for her, but this is a story that many have experienced.
Sure. Until you find the right one, you know what I'm saying? I can say I've experienced myself.
I was just lucky, I guess.
Yeah, look at you. Oh, okay. So from there, we find out Dr. Dude isn't really into her. He's really more so into She-Hulk. He kind of played her to the left. And then what? Was it a news article or a news thing, or was it the delivery of the documents? That was next.
So the documents were served to She-Hulk that she's being sued by Titania.
Mm-hmm.
It's a like a copyright infringement because it seems like Titania passive aggressively claimed She-Hulk, like
The
trademarked
name.
the
Mm-hmm.
name to be able to sue Jennifer Walters, or at least that's how it
Mm-hmm.
seems. Um, and I mean, what a sting! Like you have to deal with this like a-hole of a guy, right? Who just is like, you can keep my sweater, walks away,
Mm-hmm.
and then she gets served like that she's being sued by Titania, and she's like, "Are you serious?" And first of all, like, how did the charges get dropped? Like
Right.
there were ample amount of witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a courtroom, for God's sakes. Like it makes no sense that the charges were
She
dropped
almost
unless
crushed the
someone
whole
forgot to
jury.
give the Miranda rights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unless someone forgot to give the Miranda rights and they got let loose, kind of like a whole, what's his name, Freddy Krueger situation, how he got let loose and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because of a
Mm-hmm.
technicality. It makes no sense why she's back on the street.
Yeah, they're gonna have to clear that up for sure. And just in terms of her suing She-Hulk, Jennifer is not referring to herself as She-Hulk. I think she's made it clear that that's what people are calling her. So, is it? Can she even be sued for that? Being that this is what the people gave her.
I don't think so because it's not like she's getting money out of the name
Right.
either. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think that Titania has like a claim.
Right.
Um, because I think in order for her to have a claim, like her using the name has to somehow affect her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And it doesn't really at all.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's gonna stick. Like as I'm sure we'll see. But I do think it's funny how their next altercation is going to be in the courtroom. I would have thought that if she got let loose, it was going to be like she's hunting her down, and then we see another like fight. But I think it's so appropriate that it's going to take it back to the courtroom. You know?
One thing I kind of actually, being that we didn't, like, we discussed it last week, but unfortunately, what happened. Uh, Let me ask you, in terms of people now trying to get her blood, do you think that this is? I mean, because they work for somebody, right? Do you think that this somebody is in relation to Titania? Like, would you predict that, or do you think those are just totally different people trying to get at She-Hulk?
I mean, obviously it's possible. Like we mentioned last time, I don't really think that the person that's trying to get her blood is all that smart because he kind of sent like, for lack of a better word, like just stupid henchmen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so like that's why I kind of didn't really think the power broker would have been the one behind it, just because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like they might be separate entities. This episode did start off with that reference because her dad was just like, you need to you should have reported that you got attacked by these people. Like maybe they'll come back. And she kind of just like brushes it off her shoulders. So we'll see it unfold. But right now, I don't really think it's related as of now, but it could be.
Okay, that's something that needs to be unfolded because, like, episode one, Bruce made it clear by lasering all of her blood samples to dust, basically, and now there is somebody out there that's actively trying to get a sample, so it's like, though it may have been slight in episode three, that's just something to kind of ponder, that there's somebody out there after her blood.
And in this episode, on one of her dates, one of the guys asked her, like, oh, is your skin impenetrable? And she says, impenetrable by anything on Earth. So there, and he says, like, oh, would vibranium do it? And she's just kind of like, okay, we're done here.
Mm-hmm.
And vibranium is not of Earth,
Mm-hmm.
So, like, there might just be something that could do it. And since we know that this is an objective of some, like malicious entity, maybe we'll see what exactly would do that,
I'm trying to think, like, now I'm trying to think back in the movies in terms of the Hulk, right? Even in What If, what was it? Was he shot as the Hulk, or was he shot before transforming in What If? Do you remember?
Didn't Ant-Man go inside him and blow up?
Right, but
Am I making this
it
up?
was from a shot. Like the Hulk got shot somehow. So I'm assuming Bruce Banner got shot and he transformed into the Hulk, but the Ant-Man was already inside, if that makes sense.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I'm not too sure. I can't answer that really.
Because as of right now, and from everything that I've seen, the Hulk skin is pretty was it impenetrable? You know what I'm saying? I don't think anything can get through. Not even because I think when Tony had his Hulk smasher, he may have like broke a tooth because I think I remember the Hulk spitting out a tooth or whatnot, but never really broke skin. Um, so maybe vibranium. We just haven't seen a vibranium weapon against the Hulk. We've seen other type of weapons against him, and so far the only thing that really affects him is really like sound waves.
Yes, and also what I was kind of thinking was, I'm trying to think back to the fight that he has with Thanos, like if he ever got left with any markings, because that would give us an indication if the object that Thanos was holding was strong enough to pierce his skin, because that weapon does break vibranium. You know what I mean? So this would give us an idea of like the ranking or how like
Wait,
impenetrable his skin would
he
be.
he engaged the Hulk in hand to hand combat. He didn't have any weapons.
Ah, damn. Okay, just
He just beat him up.
damn,
He just beat him up.
man. I was gonna kind of give a prediction. So I wonder because obviously Titania is suing Jennifer Walters. Obviously Jennifer Walters. Actually, I guess she could. Um, what's the word? She could represent herself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was wondering. Now I'm a little curious, but because I know in the last episode that one guy who is a lawyer, I don't know if they told him he could not represent himself or if it was just the fact that he was trying to represent himself. He's like, you have a representative, like you need to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I was gonna say is like I wonder if this is where Matt Murdock would come in to like represent Jennifer Walters, and something ensues where he has to engage as
Mm-hmm.
Daredevil. You know what I mean? Because he's already going to be in California, where we know that he is mainly stationed on the East Coast. So I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if that's kind of how we're going to get him in the picture. I'm just curious, but it's TBD. If she's allowed to represent herself, it would make sense that she would just go that route.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. What else? What else? Was there anything? Was there a post credit scene?
Yes, the post-credit scene was Madison and Wongers
Oh
watching.
right,
I forget. Was
Wongers,
it The Sopranos?
Sopranos.
Sopranos? Yeah, it was The Sopranos,
Yep.
and I just love it. I'm gonna like, I'm just obsessed. She stole the show. I'm telling you,
No,
stole the
yeah,
show.
like say, even though it's yes, I agree. She stole the show. It was the fact that she did that kind of bothered me a little bit. Like the whole like Wongers and him like like he didn't want to bring her to court, but like he knew it was a bad idea. He knew, and it looked like they were. It looked like to be midday or whatnot. The sun was shining bright, but she was out there somewhere getting drunk, So she's out here just partying.
She could be out in somewhere where the sun was not shining. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Because it's like he could have like pulled her from, I don't know where it's dark when it's daylight, somewhere else.
Okay.
You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Yeah.
Sure.
Like where the time zone is different.
Mhm.
Or maybe she's just like a midday drinker, which by the way we've seen her this far may not be surprising.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's just drunk throughout the whole episode. But again, I love how Juan is so genuinely like just enjoying her company. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like they're friends. Like I love that so much because he's so serious, but like it works.
Yeah. I can say that we couldn't have been friends if I were Wong. Let's say if it were a show like I'm catching up on Game of Thrones, and Game of Thrones has been off for years now. Before like this show came out, that's out right now. And then if I'm, let's say, season 1, and someone's just like, "Oh, this is where Ned Stark gets his head chopped off," I'd have been like, get away from me. Like, especially if you're
You are not my
if you're
friend.
telling me a death of like a main character, I don't want to hear it, and we will never speak again. Especially if I don't really know you like that. I just randomly happened to be in a situation where he popped up in my apartment through one of my little sling ring holes. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I'm sorry. We can't be friends. You ruined the show that I've actually been trying to catch up on.
When I went to go see No Way Home, I was it No Way Home or was it Multiverse of Madness? One of those two. Well, we were walking, and I was with my partner, and as we're walking, like there's a rule. You do not start talking about the film, especially when it's so monumental. Like you know this is a fan until you get to your car.
That's not a rule. Like
That is
even
a
though
rule.
I don't do it. Like I follow it. It's like you have to expect like you're going into a theater, someone's coming out of a theater, and they're just like so excited to be like, oh, I can't believe that happened. You know, like people are going to
It's
talk.
common. It's decency. It's like washing your hands when you go to the restroom. You know what I mean? It's this is known, okay? When it's like MCU
It's really
related,
not. It's
like
really
these
not.
things,
It's
I will
not.
disagree
I'm
so hard.
sorry. No,
Anywho,
and I
so
disagree with you. And the only reason why
that's
the only
okay.
reason why I'm arguing with you right now is honestly just because of last week. I went to the movies. I saw the Elvis movie and then went to the bathroom afterwards. And then after or as I'm washing my hand, I'm seeing a gentleman leave the stall and then leave the bathroom without visiting the sink. So people just don't wash their hands.
There are horrible people out there. And you know something? This is a category that I would say is within that range
Mm-hmm.
because I'm walking and this guy just like blurts out that I forget, like let's just say that it was Multiverse of Madness
Mm-hmm.
and he said like John Krasinski shows up
Mm-hmm.
or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. I forget the specifics, but I literally stopped and Brian, like my partner, actually had to be like, Grace, please keep walking because I was so fine. I'm 4'11", but I was like so heated, and he literally had to just like walk me away. I'm like, Brian, you don't understand. Like I was so upset. And let me just say this: when the final book came out of the Harry Potter series,
Mm-hmm.
and people were in line to buy the books, there was a person who screamed out a huge like spoiler and he got like beat up. Like fandoms are wild. I don't condone violence, but I am just saying. I am just saying.
I think it now it comes to the point because we've talked before, especially now with these fandoms, that when these movies come out, we know them to be more so events. It's not just a movie; it's like a whole ton of nerds just ready to just go and cheer and be loud and things like that. So I think now, kind of going forward, it's a matter of we can't control the fandom, but we can't control what we hear. So we might as well have to just walk in with like some earbuds and music playing, you know what I'm saying, until we get to the little ticket person to scan our phones or whatnot. Because we can't control people, you know what I'm saying? We can't.
I don't claim
I'm
them.
sorry.
They're not my
I'm
friends.
sorry. People are going to ruin it, and they do it on purpose
They're not my
sometimes.
friends.
Yeah, exactly.
I do not.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't mingle with these people,
Mm-hmm.
guys. Like it's common. Just be kind.
Yep.
Just be
Yep.
nice. It's like those. It's like when a huge movie came, like Endgame, and there were like everyone was like, "If do not spoil the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do not spoil the movie."
Mm-hmm.
Like there are laws. There are laws in the fandom. You know. Yeah.
Okay. Well, did you have anything else on this episode?
No, I think that's everything I had on the episode. All in all, another great one for She-Hulk. I think, she's 444. I'm loving it so far. I'm excited that I realized that there are so many episodes still left to come. I'm really hoping that Daredevil comes in this next one just because I'm excited to see him back on, like, the screen. But, yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got.
It's wild, like, you saying, like, 444, which is true, is like she hasn't really missed like that. There hasn't really been any slow episodes, and each of these are 30 minutes apiece, so it's just like she's doing great, giving us more so Marvel's first quote unquote, let's say, sitcom, and it's just cool to see now, like Marvel just doing just like a whole nother genre of television production. You know, it's not all about the drama. It's not all about the uh, well, I think it's all drama as far as everything that we've seen so far from Loki.
It's a courtroom drama,
right? But
you know?
but
Yeah.
here we're getting like a comedy series that, if I were to guess, or let me ask you, has there been there hasn't been any other comedy series like that? Like I wouldn't even put Wanda under the comedy, even though it had its funny moments. I don't think of it as a comedy series.
Well, WandaVision was like a parody of like sitcoms.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was very sitcom-y. But this one has, I think it's what we would consider more of like the modern like sitcom structure. You know?
And that was it. There hasn't been any other real shows like that with Marvel.
Yeah,
right?
and I think it's because this is like a street level character that they can do that, where it kind of follows a more like sitcom structure as we know it. I think for WandaVision, the episode that would be the most similar, and again, it's just one episode, I wouldn't say it's the whole series, is the Modern Family Office kind of inspired episode. I feel like that is a very similar vibe, but again, it's only a portion of it, right?
Yeah, that was
reality,
only one
non-reality.
episode when she was kind of like
exactly.
spazzing out, right? And it was kind of just like,
yeah.
gotcha.
Where it feels more grounded and it feels like this a little, but again, yeah, it was just one episode, but I think that's something I would compare it to, but it's the whole series.
Yeah.
This is, in this case. Yeah.
So I'm with you, 4 for 4. Feige, we're still good on good terms. We're on good terms for now. You know what I'm saying? Until you actually give me a little bit more of the Man in the Ocean, you know, I'll just wait. I'll wait, you know what I'm saying?
The threats continue.
Yep.
The threats continue. All right, well, is that all you got for this episode?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, guys, we have like a whole agenda planned out for you guys for the next like 2 months. We're super excited. We're gonna have a couple of like extra episodes coming your way. We'll announce it so you guys can keep up with us. But I know we're gonna do a D23 breakdown. We're gonna do a Spider-Man extended edition breakdown as we go forward. So please look out for those dates.
D23 starts tomorrow.
Oh, come
yes,
on.
it's not today.
I was about to do. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, but like D23 starts
out
tomorrow.
Like the Disney Plus day already happened. I believe that was yesterday. Okay. I think D23 is tomorrow. Okay. I believe you're right.
Okay. TBD. We'll see. But TBD. Go ahead and close this out. Do it again.
All right, guys. This was the Comic Cinematic Universe with Chill and Grace. We will catch you guys on the next one. I almost feel like I need to do, ready? It's the Mickey Mouse ears.
Oh, snap.
Like on Disney Channel. But that's it for today, guys, and we will see you on the next one.
Awesome. All right, see y'all. Y'all have a good weekend.